Hey guys, it's Carla. Today I'm going to paint a lightning bolt in a purple sky with clouds. It's a very limited palette. This is acrylic paint, and I'm using an 8x10 canvas panel, but you could do this on any size or shape. So I've coated my canvas with a light purple, so just the violet and white mixture. So I've coated it and I've dried it. And I'm going to go ahead and start laying in my clouds. And for that, I'm going to use my 3/4 inch mop brush. If you don't have a mop brush, you could use like a stiff bristled, like a hog bristle brush, or a blender brush, or a deerfoot stippler. Anything with stiff bristles, you could get this same effect. So I'm going to start by putting in my light area right here. And for that, I'm going to pick up some white, a little bit of purple, because I don't want it white, but I don't want it this dark either. So a little bit of purple, a little bit of magenta. I think that'll be good. All right, so I'm gonna put that in right here, and I'm not worried about the shape right now because I'll be shaping it with the clouds that I put around it. I just want to make sure that I have this light area right here to work with. And I also want to make sure when I'm putting it in there that I don't leave any hard edges to have to fight with. I think I'm actually going to switch to my smaller mop brush. And I'm going to pick up just white and brighten some of this and leave some of it darker. I see some really bright spots. Okay, I think that's good on my light, that brightest area. And now I'm going to pick up a little bit more of I'm going to mix up a little more of this light purpley pink shade. And I want to I'm going to offload it from my brush. I don't want a whole lot of paint on there. And I'm going to put kind of a glow where my main lightning bolt is going to be, because behind it, it's kind of lit up the sky a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and determine where that's going to be. I'm just going to draw it in first, and then I'll come back and kind of blur it out. Just make some kind of curvy, jagged shape. And then with kind of a dry brush, I'm going to very lightly come over it and kind of fuzz it out. And then while I've got this color on my brush, there's some other little light areas in the sky, just vaguely. So, and you can add more or less depending on what you like. But with a dry brush, a very dry brush, I'm gonna just scrub some of these lighter areas in. I'm just going to try this round pointed hog bristle brush, and we'll see what happens with it. Okay, so I'm going to pick up some of my purple, a little bit of my pink, and a little black. I did not wet my hog bristle brush because I want it to be fairly dry, or it will get soggy and not do what I want it to do. So I don't know if you can tell, I'm using like circular motions. And I'm very lightly scrubbing this in. So everywhere that I see these dark areas, I'm going to use the same technique, just scrub in circular motions. Now I'm slowly getting my darker areas in. Again, just circular motions. And when you get near where you need it to be blended, make sure there's not much paint on your brush and just lightly blend it into that area. Now up here on this upper edge of the cloud, it's not really a blended edge. There's some kind of hard areas, so I'm going to use the tip of my brush and actually leave some of this hard. Now this cloud right here, this dark cloud up here, extends on over like behind the lightning bolt and continues down this way. Okay, now before I move on to my lightning bolt, I'm going to use my mop brush and pick up a little water and a little bit of that pink, and I'm going to make a glaze to go over this to just add a little hint of the pink, and it'll kind of unify the whole thing and bring it all together too. So this kind of serves two purposes. So just want that very thin. And I'm just going to go over the whole canvas with it. Make sure that it's dry before you do this. But you can see the difference that it makes between having it and not having it. It unifies the whole painting and it gives it that hint of pink. Okay, now I've dried my canvas, and I'm going to go ahead and put the first coat on my main lightning bolt because I know that I'll have to come back with at least one more coat and to get it that bright. And so I can go ahead and put my first coat on and work on my smaller lines and then come back and put a second coat on that. So I'm going to use the same brush I used to do the clouds because it has a point on it. It's a hog bristle brush, has a point on it. If you don't have one like that, you can use a flat hog bristle and use this, you know, the skinny side of it or whatever. Or you could use like a round brush. But what I'm trying to avoid is having hard edges on it because it looks real glowy, and so I would like to avoid the hard edges if I can. So I'm going to pick up just quite a bit on the tip of my brush. And I want it to be kind of jagged and, you know, try to avoid any straight lines for any distance at all. I'm going to get most of the paint off my brush and kind of go over this again. Clean up anything that needs cleaned up and get rid of the really thick blobs of paint. All right, now I'll come back to that later, and I'm going to go ahead and start on my thinner lines. I'm going to use my long bristled liner brush. You could use a shorter bristled one, it just doesn't hold as much paint. You could use anything with a sharp point. You could use a toothpick. I've done lightning bolts with toothpicks many times. So if you don't have a good liner brush to use, then don't worry about it. Just use something with a sharp point. And if you'll notice, I don't know how well you can see this, but these bristles are very poofy and flared out. That doesn't mean that it's a bad liner brush. It just means it's dry. Because when you have these long bristles, when they dry, they do separate and flare out. But it's poofy now, and then when you wet it, you get that sharp point. So don't think your brush is ruined if it's poofy. All right, so I'm going to pick up just white. And then I want to wet my bristles real good and water that down because I want it very thin. If it's not thin enough, it won't come off your brush. It'll stick to it. So you want it thin. And if you'll hold the brush way back here at the back end of it, you can get these squiggly lines better. So I'm going to start at my main bolt and then just squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. And each of these lines has other ones branching off of it. So just kind of look at your reference photo, and I'm not saying follow it to a T, but it'll give you an idea of how lightning bolts are shaped. You might have one coming off here and then coming back around, crossing back over. Just make it interesting. I want to make sure that I have one that comes down here almost to the corner. And try to remember to put in these little spikes, these little short spikes that come off. Almost every one of them has this. Okay, I've got all my lightning bolts in, and while they're drying, I'm going to try to brighten this spot up a little bit, and it's going to be kind of tough around those lines, but I feel like it dulled down a little too much. I like those little bright spots in the sky. See if I want any more of them. Now I'm going to try, don't do this until you see how mine turns out, but I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and try to put more of a glow around this main lightning bolt. I'm using circular motions. Just want it to be a little bit more glowy. And then I'll come back and put another coat on the center of it. Okay, I like that a lot better. Now I'm going to go ahead and put that final coat on. I'm using pretty thick, not thick paint, but a thick layer of paint, because it's really the only way to get white really bright. And then the last thing you'll want to do is, with your liner brush again, or your toothpick or whatever, put in little bright sections, like not the whole bolt maybe, but just a bright section here and there. And that kind of adds a little bit of interest to it. And the reason this makes sense is because, you know, the light from the lightning is bouncing off clouds, and just it's doing all kinds of interesting things. So all of these are not going to be the same brightness. All right, guys, there's my lightning bolt tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And check out my other videos. I've got quite a few, and I'm adding more almost daily right now. So, you know, got nothing else to do. So that's what I do, is paint all day. So check out those other videos and subscribe, please, and maybe leave a comment. And I will see you next time. Bye, guys.